I played the Brahms second in Seattle a year or so ago, and I had dinner with someone who was one of the heads of AI at Microsoft. And I was sort of asking him about this, and he said, Brahms, AI will never touch what Brahms did in that piano concerto, because that is flesh and blood. That is sinew and muscle and a heartbeat and a brain. And we can, of course, get close in many areas of life, but Brahms stops us from being completely taken over by the machines. We have this vision of Brahms as an old man with a long grey beard, and actually, he was an Adonis when he was in his 20s, and this piece is part of that time of his life. It begins with a thunderclap, with the timpani roll, and then this vehement theme that just goes across the arpeggio in these darting kind of sword stroke gestures. And then, of course, the ending where the sun comes out with the horn solo after the first piano cadenza in the last movement. And it just becomes overwhelming and joyful. And I've actually a couple of performances. I remember one when I really couldn't speak afterwards. I was tearing up because I just felt this darkness to light, which all of us look for in our lives in various ways. Just so overwhelming and such a deep human experience. Oh, I think Mendelssohn is absolutely wonderful. And when I recorded all the Mendelssohn music for piano and orchestra, I counted the number of times he'd written con fuoco, with fire, in the score. And I think it was something like 14. It was a good 3 or 4 in this concerto. And you certainly hear that very much in the first movement of this piece. It's a piece that begins with a massive crescendo, the softest the orchestra can play to the loudest the orchestra can play in 5 seconds, and he really gives you a kick in the backside as you begin this piece. It's a firecracker going off. Then we have the second movement, or the second section, which is one of his most beautiful songs without words. Mendelssohn wrote gorgeous melodies, they poured out of him. And then the last movement, yes, it begins with some of the fuoco of the first movement, but then we suddenly find ourselves in this marvelous world of froth and champagne and lightness. And, let's not forget that's human life too. Let's hope it is in all of our lives. And maybe a sense of humor is also something that AI can't do. And this last movement certainly has that. It has a smile in every bar, and it's a very joyful piece to play. The audience always has this wonderful reaction at the end, because it's an irresistible popping of a cork. Donald, of course, did the world premiere of my piano concerto in Utah, so we were very much together then, and I just love working with him. He's such a great musician, and he has an individual voice. And it's kind of rare. There are wonderful conductors around, but some of them just don't sound like or they make the orchestra not sound like anyone else. And Donald is one of those. So I'm very excited to be working with him. But with the Brahms, with Elim, who's a friend and absolutely fantastic, I'm excited very much to work with her. We last worked literally the week before the pandemic began. Rachmaninoff 2, and I'm so excited to be doing the Brahms with her. I'm often asked by people, what are your favorite places to play, And I always have to say, Sydney, for all kinds of reasons. I absolutely love coming back to play there and to visit there. And of course, the last time I was there, it was in the refurbished Opera House. So now I can say that I love also the acoustics. Absolutely, I could tell the difference, but it was more on the stage. Finally, you really felt like you could hear other players and make a connection musically with them. Because it's one thing hearing a clarinet play something, and, obviously you could hear it. But it's another thing hearing it in a way that it's actually enveloping you so that you can match, you can dance with it. You can put your arms around that sound and actually make movements with it and shape it. And that's something that you only get in the best concert halls. And I feel now that that's possible in Sydney. So that's very exciting, I think, for one of the great cities of the world.